Why should I apologize? For what? For breathing too loudly in a world that never listens? For being bold in a society that loves to shrink people? For daring to exist on my own terms even when that makes others uncomfortable? We're taught from a young age that apologizing is the right thing to do. It's the polite thing to do. They say, be the bigger person, as if shrinking yourself somehow makes you bigger. But let me tell you something, there's nothing noble about apologizing when you've done nothing wrong. The world doesn't want your honesty. It wants your compliance. It wants you to bow, to bend, to keep the peace, even when that peace comes at the cost of your dignity. Think about it. How many times have you apologized just to smooth things over? Just to keep someone else comfortable? Just to avoid the backlash of standing firm? But here's the truth. Every unnecessary apology chips away at your strength. Every "I'm sorry for things that aren't your fault" is like handing over another piece of your soul. And one day you'll look in the mirror and realize there's nothing left. Today we're going to break this cycle. Today we're going to unlearn the lies they told us about apologies. Because the truth is simple, not every apology is deserved, and not every person is worthy of it. Ask yourself, who benefits when you apologize for things you didn't do? Who profits from your submission? And most importantly, why are you the one who has to bow? Let me tell you something, and I want you to listen closely. You don't owe anyone an apology for being strong. You don't owe anyone an apology for protecting your peace. And you sure as hell don't owe anyone an apology for refusing to carry their chaos. Stop apologizing for being unbreakable. Why do we apologize for everything? For existing, for speaking up, for simply taking up space. Society has trained us to believe that an apology is the price of belonging, that it's the easiest way to avoid conflict. But here's the truth, this culture of apologies isn't about kindness, it's about control. Think about it. How often do you say, "I'm sorry," when you haven't done anything wrong? "I'm sorry I couldn't make it." "I'm sorry I need more time." "I'm sorry, but I have to set boundaries." It's automatic. It's reflexive. You've been programmed to say those words even when they're not true, even when you have nothing to apologize for. This isn't politeness. This is submission. Every time you apologize unnecessarily, you give away a little bit of your power. You're teaching people that your voice is negotiable, that your needs are secondary, that their comfort is more important than your truth. And guess what? The world loves it. They love it when you bend over backward. They love it when you take the blame for things that weren't your fault, because it makes their lives easier. But what does it do to you? It eats away at you. It makes you question yourself. It makes you wonder if maybe, just maybe, you are the problem. But let me tell you this, you're not the problem. The problem is the system that taught you to apologize for simply existing. The problem is the people who thrive off your guilt, who feed off your insecurities, who expect you to bow while they take everything you've got. The truth is, the culture of apologies was never about making things right. It was about making you small. It was about keeping you quiet. It was about training you to believe that conflict is worse than compromise, even when that compromise destroys you. But not anymore. Not today. Today, you unlearn the lie that you need to apologize to keep the peace. Because real peace doesn't come from bowing to others' expectations. Real peace comes from standing firm in your truth, no matter how much it shakes the ground beneath you. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them get angry. Let them walk away if they can't handle your strength. That's not your burden to carry. Stop apologizing for existing. Stop apologizing for saying no. And stop apologizing for being strong enough to say enough. Let's talk about the truth they don't want you to see. Apologies aren't just words, they're weapons, they're tools of power. When used correctly, they can heal, rebuild trust, and make things right. But when twisted, when demanded, they become something else entirely. Apologies can become chains. And the ones pulling those chains, they know exactly what they're doing. Have you ever been in this situation? Someone insists you apologize even when you know you're not in the wrong. Why? Because they don't want your truth, they want your submission. This isn't about resolving the issue, it's about control. They don't care about what's right or wrong. They care about being right. They care about winning. And an apology, whether you mean it or not, is their trophy. When you apologize to avoid conflict, you're telling them you're more important than me. Your comfort matters more than my truth. And they will take that message and run with it. But here's what they don't want you to realize: apologies are power. When you give them out freely, you're giving that power away. When you hold on to them until they're deserved, you're reclaiming control. Let's break this down. Who benefits when you apologize for something you didn't do? The manipulator, they win the argument, the fight, or the debate. They leave with the upper hand. The world that stays comfortable. No ripples, no waves, no accountability for the people who wronged you. You walk away lighter because they just took another piece of your dignity. Here's the truth no one tells you. Not every apology is deserved. Not every person has the right to demand one from you. And not every conflict needs to end with you bowing down. The world is full of people who manipulate your guilt to serve their own agendas. They'll twist the narrative to make you look like the villain. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe it. When you refuse to apologize for something you didn't do, you're not being stubborn, you're being strong. You're drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is where your manipulation ends. The next time someone demands an apology you don't owe, ask yourself, am I apologizing to make peace or to avoid their anger? Am I apologizing because I'm wrong or because they want me to feel wrong? And most importantly, will this apology set me free or chain me to them even tighter? Remember this, an apology is not a surrender. It's not a gift you hand out to anyone who demands it. It's a choice, a powerful one. And sometimes, the most powerful choice you can make is to say, no, I will not apologize. Have you ever stopped to think about the price of an apology? Not the simple ones, like I'm sorry I bumped into you or I'm sorry I was late. No, I'm talking about the ones that cut deep, the ones you give when you don't mean it, the ones you give when you've done nothing wrong. Those apologies, the ones forced out of guilt, fear, or manipulation, don't just end the conflict. They end a piece of you. Every time you apologize unnecessarily, you're telling yourself that your feelings don't matter, that your truth is less important than someone else's approval. And over time, that message sinks in. You start doubting yourself. You start questioning your worth. And one day you wake up and realize you've been apologizing for everything, including things you never should have. Do you know what that does to you? It breaks you, piece by piece, apology by apology. You apologize for setting boundaries and you lose your peace. You apologize for walking away and you lose your freedom. You apologize for your success and you shrink yourself to make others feel bigger. And the worst part, the people you're apologizing to, they don't stop. They keep taking, they keep demanding, because you've taught them that your power is theirs to claim. When you apologize unnecessarily, you're not just giving something away, you're taking something from yourself. You're sacrificing your truth, your strength, your identity. It's a high price to pay, too high, and for what? To keep someone else happy? To avoid an argument? To make the world a little more comfortable while you suffer in silence? No, not anymore. You need to understand this. The cost of unnecessary apologies is too great. Every time you give one, you're choosing someone else's comfort over your peace. Every time you say I'm sorry when you don't mean it, you're letting someone else rewrite your story. And the more you give, the less you have left. But here's the good news: you can stop. You can reclaim what's yours. It starts with one decision, one moment where you refuse to apologize for being who you are. It starts with saying, no, I will not carry your guilt anymore. The cost of apologizing is steep, but so is the reward of standing firm. When you stop apologizing for things that aren't your fault, you regain your strength. You reclaim your voice. You remind yourself in the world that your truth is not negotiable. Stop paying the price for other people's comfort. Stop apologizing for being unshakable. Not all apologies are wrong. Not all apologies are a surrender. When given with intention, an apology can be one of the most powerful things you'll ever say. But here's the key: you don't apologize for their comfort. You apologize for your integrity. You apologize when it's real, when it's right. Anything else is just another lie. Let's break this down. How do you know when an apology is truly necessary? First, ask yourself these 3 questions. Am I genuinely at fault? Did my words or actions harm someone else? Did I overstep? Did I act out of anger, carelessness, or fear? Do I regret what I did? Not because they're upset, but because I know I could have done better. Will this apology make things right? Will it heal the hurt, build trust? Or is it just a band-aid for a deeper wound? If the answer to all 3 is yes, then apologize. Not because they demand it, but because your integrity demands it. A real apology is not about bending or breaking. It's about rebuilding. It's about taking responsibility when you've fallen short and proving that your word still means something. But here's the catch: not every apology leads to forgiveness, and that's okay. You can't control how someone receives your apology. You can't force them to forgive you. But you can control the part you play, and sometimes that's enough. Here's when you should apologize. When you've crossed a boundary you shouldn't have. When your actions caused real harm, whether intentional or not. When an apology will help rebuild trust and show growth. But here's when you don't owe an apology. When someone else's expectations are unreasonable. When you're simply being true to yourself. When their feelings are more about their insecurities than your actions. The strongest apologies come from a place of truth. They don't come from guilt or fear. They come from a desire to make things right, not to hand over your power. When you apologize for the right reasons, it doesn't weaken you, it strengthens you. It shows that you have the courage to face your flaws and the wisdom to grow from them. But never forget this: a real apology is earned, not demanded. It's a gift you give because you want to, not because you're forced to. There comes a moment in everyone's life when they have to make a choice. Do you keep bending, apologizing, and shrinking to fit into the world around you? Or do you stand tall, reclaim your voice, and remind the world that you weren't made to be small? Reclaiming your power starts with one decision: no more unnecessary apologies. Taking back your power doesn't mean you never apologize. It means you stop giving it away so easily. It means you reserve it for the moments that matter. And most importantly, it means you stop living for everyone else's approval. But how do you start? For most of us, apologizing has become second nature. It's automatic. You say sorry without even thinking, but habits can be broken. The next time you're about to apologize, stop and ask yourself, am I really at fault? Is this apology for them or for me? Will apologizing help or just make me smaller? If the answer is no, then pause, stay silent. Let the moment pass without an apology. It'll feel strange at first, it'll feel uncomfortable. But discomfort is where growth begins. Your power lies in your boundaries and the lines you draw between yourself and the world. Start saying no, not no, sorry, but just no. Start standing firm when someone tries to guilt you into apologizing. Start walking away from conversations, situations, and people who demand your submission. And here's the thing: people will resist. They'll push back. They'll call you selfish, stubborn, even cruel. That's the price of reclaiming your power. And it's worth it. Strength isn't about never apologizing. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to make amends. It's about owning your truth, even when it's messy, even when it's imperfect. True strength is being unapologetically yourself in a world that wants you to conform. Reclaiming your power doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. You will. But when you do, you'll own them on your terms. You'll apologize when it's right, not when it's demanded. And when you stop apologizing for being yourself, something incredible happens. You grow. You heal. You inspire others to do the same. Reclaiming your power isn't just about refusing to apologize, it's about reclaiming your life. It's about walking away from the chains of guilt, shame, and expectation. It's about standing tall and saying, "This is who I am, and I owe no one an apology for that." It's time to take your power back. It's time to stop apologizing for being who you are. Because the world doesn't need more people who bend and break, it needs people who rise and fight. And that starts with you. You've heard the message, you've seen the truth. Apologies are not just words, they're choices, and every choice shapes who you are. So ask yourself, what kind of life do you want to live? One where you shrink, bend, and break for the comfort of others? Or one where you rise, stand firm, and own your truth? Here's the reality: the world will keep testing you. It will keep demanding apologies, expecting you to carry guilt that isn't yours to bear. But you don't have to play by their rules. You don't have to apologize for setting boundaries, walking away from toxic people, speaking your mind, being who you are. Reclaiming your power isn't about being heartless, it's about being fearless. It's about knowing when to say, "I was wrong and I'm sorry." And it's about knowing when to say, "No, I will not apologize." The difference is clear. One path takes your power. The other path builds it. To those watching this, hear me loud and clear. The world doesn't define your worth, you do. No one else can dictate your truth, it's yours. And if they can't handle it, that's their problem, not yours. The next time someone demands an apology you don't owe, remember this moment. Remember that your power lies in your choices. And remember that you decide when and if the words "I'm sorry" leave your lips. This is your life, your voice, your power. Own it. Live it. Never apologize for it. Let's talk about where this all begins: apology culture. From a young age, many of us are trained to apologize for everything. Bumped into someone? Say sorry. Spoke out of turn? Say sorry. Took up space, had a big idea, or dared to be different. Apologize for making others uncomfortable. But what does that teach us? It teaches us to value harmony over honesty, approval over authenticity. It's no wonder we grow up thinking "I'm sorry" is a magic word, a shield to deflect criticism, a tool to avoid conflict. But here's the truth: apology culture isn't about respect, it's about control. When you're constantly apologizing, you're easier to manage, easier to silence. It's time to break free. It's time to unlearn what society drilled into you. Here's how. Recognize the programming. Start paying attention to how often you apologize out of habit. Notice who makes you feel the need to say "I'm sorry" the most. Challenge the narrative. Ask yourself, who benefits from my apology? Is it about fixing something or keeping me small? Rewire your responses. Instead of saying "Sorry, I'm late," try "Thank you for waiting." Replace "Sorry, can I ask a question" with "I have a question." And when someone demands an apology, take a moment to decide if it's truly owed. Breaking free from apology culture is not about being rude or arrogant. It's about being free to own your actions, your choices, your life. When you stop apologizing unnecessarily, you don't just break free from the chains of guilt, you inspire others to do the same. You show them what it looks like to live unapologetically. And that is power. Break free. Live boldly. Never apologize for your truth. Here's a truth most people don't talk about. Your tendency to apologize is often tied directly to how you see yourself. Think about it: when you value yourself, you stand firm. You don't feel the need to constantly explain, defend, or apologize for existing. But when your self-worth is low, every interaction feels like a potential offense. Every moment feels like something you need to fix. And so you apologize. Not to make things better, but to convince yourself that you're enough. This is how low self-worth creeps into your language, your actions, your life. You say sorry to interrupt when you have every right to speak. You say, sorry, I didn't mean to when you've done nothing wrong. You apologize for taking up space, for existing, for being. But here's the thing, apologizing doesn't fix self-worth. It destroys it. Every unnecessary apology chips away at your confidence. It tells your mind that you're in the wrong, even when you're not. It reinforces the belief that your needs, your feelings, your truth are less important than others. And over time, it teaches you to see yourself as less deserving, less worthy, less capable. But here's the good news, you can break the cycle. Rebuild your self-worth. Start small. Practice looking in the mirror and saying, I am enough. Remind yourself daily that your worth isn't tied to other people's opinions. Replace apologies with confidence. Instead of sorry for being late, say thank you for waiting. Instead of sorry, I need help, say I appreciate your support. Small changes in language create massive shifts in mindset. Surround yourself with people who value you. Spend time with those who respect your boundaries and celebrate your voice. Distance yourself from those who demand constant apologies. It's not your job to carry their insecurities. When you stop apologizing unnecessarily, you're not just changing your behavior, you're changing how you see yourself. You're telling yourself that you matter. You're affirming that your voice deserves to be heard. You're proving that you don't need to apologize to exist. Apologies don't define your worth, you do. When you choose confidence over guilt, self-worth over shame, you reclaim your life. Conflict, it's uncomfortable. It's messy. And for most people, it's easier to end it with an apology, even if it's not deserved. But here's the thing, saying sorry just to avoid conflict doesn't resolve the problem. It avoids it. And in avoiding it, you lose something valuable, your voice, your power, your truth. So how do you handle conflict without surrendering to unnecessary apologies? Conflict thrives on emotion, anger, frustration, fear. But the moment you let your emotions take over, you lose control of the situation. Pause before you respond. Take a deep breath. Speak slowly and deliberately. Remind yourself you are not here to please them. You are here to be heard. Staying calm is your first line of defense against unnecessary apologies. Not all conflict requires an apology. Sometimes it's just a misunderstanding or a difference in perspective. Ask questions like, what exactly upsets you? What are you hoping to resolve? How can we move forward together? By seeking clarity, you show that you're willing to listen without immediately conceding fault. Confidence is the antidote to unnecessary apologies. Instead of saying, I'm sorry you feel that way, try saying, I understand why you feel that way, but here's my perspective. I hear you, but I don't agree. And that's okay. I'm willing to find a solution, but I won't apologize for standing by my values. Confidence doesn't mean being combative. It means holding your ground while respecting theirs. Here's the secret to handling conflict. It's not about winning or losing, it's about resolution. And resolution doesn't require you to shrink or surrender. Focus on the solution, not the blame. Offer alternatives instead of apologies. And most importantly, stand firm in your truth, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Not every conflict ends with both parties happy. Sometimes the best resolution is agreeing to disagree or walking away entirely. And that's okay, because your worth isn't tied to their approval. Conflict is inevitable, but unnecessary apologies are not. Learn to navigate the storm without losing yourself. Because true strength lies not in avoiding conflict, but in handling it with grace and power. Because guilt is a powerful emotion, a double-edged sword. On one side, guilt can guide you, reminding you to take responsibility when you've done wrong. On the other, it can trap you, making you carry burdens that aren't yours to bear. The problem? Most of us don't know the difference. Let's break it down. Healthy guilt is a signal. It says you made a mistake. Make it right. It's temporary. It's constructive. It leads to growth. Toxic guilt, though, that's a prison. It says you are the mistake. It lingers. It eats away at your confidence. It convinces you that you must apologize even when you've done nothing wrong. Here's the hard truth: toxic guilt doesn't just weigh you down, it controls you. It keeps you apologizing for things you can't control. Other people's feelings, past mistakes you've already addressed, situations that were never your fault to begin with. It's time to break the chain. Ask yourself, where's this guilt coming from? Is it based on something I did or something I've been made to feel responsible for? Does this guilt help me grow or does it hold me back? Awareness is the first step to breaking free. Toxic guilt thrives on lies you tell yourself or lies others have made you believe. Replace those lies with truth. Instead of "I hurt them, it's all my fault," say "I didn't mean to hurt them, and I'll do better." Instead of "I can't forgive myself," say "I am human, and I'm allowed to grow." The stories you tell yourself shape your reality. Here's the hardest part: letting go. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean excusing bad behavior, it means learning from it and moving forward. Try this. Write down what you feel guilty about. Reflect on what you've learned. Then physically destroy the paper, tear it, burn it, throw it away. This symbolic act can help your mind let go of what your heart has been holding on to. When you release guilt, you reclaim your life. You stop apologizing for your existence. You stop carrying pain that isn't yours. And most importantly, you open the door to healing, growth, and freedom. Guilt doesn't have to control you. Let it teach you, then let it go. Because you are more than your mistakes.